Hey everybody, this is Jay Frost speaking to you. I've been gone for a bit, and we are also having a slow season here in July until now. So it's so great to be back with you and have you all back here in the 2019 Flash Class series. We're kicking off the latter part of July with a bang with Stephen Shattuck, our presenter, which I'm going to have the opportunity to introduce to you in just a moment. But before that, of course, I want to take a minute to first welcome you and encourage you to go ahead and grab your colleagues, get something nice and cool to drink. It's probably hot where you are. It seems to be hot almost everywhere this week. Make yourselves comfortable around your favorite electronic device and get ready for another great session. Of course, if you've heard all this before, you can go ahead and plug your ears or go ahead and grab your friends. But if you haven't, please do sit tight for just a second as I tell you about this platform and the ways that you can interact with the content and with our presenter today. I'm going to start right there with telling you that you can and will, in fact, receive the slides and the recording of this session if you wish. The slides will come to you directly via email from DonorSearch, so be on the lookout for that. And a recording of this session will be placed on the DonorSearch site, right there at donorsearch.net, under the Resources tab, as you can see on the screen. If you were to go, in fact, to the Resources tab and toggle down to Flash Class Library and click that, you'd see something just like this. It's a recorded videos page where all the sessions that have been recorded back to mid-2016 are cataloged. There are now close to 200 of these, and you can sort through all the content in a variety of ways, including by, of course, title and presenter and keyword. And this session will be there in the library in the next couple of days. So if you have people in the office you'd like to share this with or other friends in the industry, we want to encourage you to take a look for it there, and they'll be able to gain access to it and, in fact, benefit from the CFRE credit as well. Now, in terms of today's session, of course, we have silenced your microphones, and I'll be silencing mine momentarily. So if there's an ambulance passing by, a dog barking in the background, or anything like that, you won't be hearing it. But instead, what we want to do is encourage you to go ahead and interact as often and as frequently and as again as frequently as you wish by simply following the bouncing arrow to the questions tab, and that's the place where we'd like you to go ahead and list any question, or for that matter, any comment at any time during the presentation, and I'll be storing those up and then sharing those with our presenter at the conclusion of his presentation so he can answer them right then and there. So please don't wait, don't hesitate. Go ahead, ask your questions and comments right in the questions tab, and of course you'll have a chance to answer them at the conclusion. If for any reason we run out of time to do that, if you don't get your question answered, all those questions will be forwarded to Stephen at the conclusion as well, so you'll have a chance to interact with him after the fact. And he is a great resource for our industry, as you'll hear if you don't know him from before. And so I'm sure you'll be very happy to get to know him, again, if you haven't met previously. The session he's doing today, as you can see right here, is one that's a big deal for all of us. And he's giving you his top 10 secrets, so you're going to be happy to learn them from a man who knows his stuff. And that's Stephen Shattuck, Chief Engagement Officer at Bloomerang. Stephen's a prolific writer and speaker. He curates Bloomerang's sector-leading educational content and hosts a weekly webinar series featuring the top thought leaders in the nonprofit sector. In fact, he's got another session tomorrow. So after you're done here today, go ahead and take a look at what they've got on the calendar right there. It's Victoria Deets. You'll be happy to hear that session. Stephen got his start in the nonprofit sector producing fundraising videos and other digital content for organizations like Butler University, which is also his alma mater, and other digital content for organizations like Girl Scouts, Christian Church, and the American Heart Association, wide variety. He volunteers his time on the project work group, the Fundraising Effectiveness Project, the Study Fundraising Steering Group at the Hortzug Center for Sustainable Philanthropy at Plymouth University as well. He's also an AFP Center for Fundraising Innovation committee member. He's contributed content to the National Council of Nonprofits, AFP, NTEN, and Nonprofit Hub, and is a frequent conference speaker, having spoken at lots of different gatherings, including AFP International, NATO, Cause Camp, ADRP, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's also co-author of Fundraising Principles and Practice, the second edition, so be on the lookout for that if you don't have it on your shelf. In 2015, he co-founded a really innovative enterprise, bringing it to the nonprofit sector, and that's Launch Cause, a registered 501c3 dedicated to helping emerging nonprofits in the Indianapolis area where Bloomerang is based, so they can enhance the impact of their work. It's an incubator for nonprofits, really wonderful innovation for our sector. He's the recipient of the David Letterman Scholarship from Ball State, where he graduated in 2006 with a degree in telecommunications and creative writing. He's definitely a person who is contributing so much to our industry and our field. And it's such a great pleasure to have back to the Flashcast stage, Stephen Shattuck. Stephen?
Well, thanks, Jay. Really appreciate the introduction. So super kind. I'm going to share my screen with you folks, and we'll get rolling. So thanks for being here, and thanks to Jay and DonorSearch and everyone over there for making this happen. And thanks to all of you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know that, new month of the first the fiscal year. Maybe you got some fall events coming up. So thanks for doing this. It's always nice to see a full room that you want to come in and listen to me. So I'll skip my bio slide since I got that very nice introduction, and we'll jump right in. So we're going to be talking today about what is commonly referred to as conversion rate optimization. So kind of a wordy phrase, sometimes scary. But basically what I'm going to do over the next hour is just give you some ideas of how you can make it easier for people to give to you online through your website, on your online donation page, on your website. Not only do we want to reduce any technical barriers, reduce any friction there may be, we don't want people to land on your site and then not fill out the form, but we also want people to have a good time doing it. And I'll kind of make the case for why I think that's important as well. This is a topic that we could spend hours and hours on. It can get very technical. It can get very, very kind of into weeds. But I'm going to kind of give you, like Jay said, 10 pretty simple tips of how you basically kind of dip your toes into the conversion rate optimization waters. So let's dive in. We'll start with number one, since that's the first one. And I think it's always good to begin in a mindset of retention. So we're going to be talking about gift acquisition today, but I think it's always important to have in the back of your mind, hey, what are we going to do to retain these donors? So, 9 out of 10 are going to be focused on acquisition here, but I just wanted to kind of start by giving you a little bit of an awareness that you should want to retain these donors in addition to want them to actually complete the donation form on your website, which is important, but we want to retain them as well. We're not very good at retaining donors. This is the most recent donor retention data from FEP. The 43% on average is our donor retention rate in the sector. Even lower for first-time donors, 20%. So 80% of first-time donors do not come back and give a second gift. So if this is the first gift that someone makes to your nonprofit through the website, 8 out of 10 of them are not going to come back. So we want to definitely stem those tides for sure. We want to get that second gift. We want to get a monthly gift. We're going to talk about how to maybe get monthly commitments on your website through your online donation form. But we want to retain these people. We don't want to just get that one gift, because if it costs more to acquire that donor than the gift they actually gave, if you spend $20 to acquire a $10 gift through your website, well, you've got negative ROI, and you want that second gift to go ahead and break even and maybe even make some more money on that donation. So I want to give you a few ideas of what you can do through your website, through your online giving software, no matter what you're using, through your donor database provider, no matter what you're using, of how to make that experience one that kind of lends itself to the donor wanting to give again, rather than just getting that transaction. We'll spend a lot of time talking about how to get the transaction, but you want to keep them giving after that happens. What we see in terms of retention data, pretty interesting. This is data from Blackbaud, where they found that there are pretty marked differences in donor retention rates by channel. You don't see it as much by age. Sometimes it's a little bit of a myth I hear, millennial donors are less loyal or somehow, more finicky about their gifts than the older donors. Don't really see that. Where we see that is differences in online versus offline. So the other reason I put retention first in this presentation is that retention rates are typically lower for these online gifts. It's easier to make an online gift. There doesn't necessarily have to be an existing conversation or a relationship. It's really easy to pull up your phone and make a donation. It's easy to click that donate button on Facebook, and it's easy to get a donation from basically anywhere online. So that's why I really want to focus in on retaining these people, because even though our retention rates are, between 40 and 30% on average, they're even lower online, and they're even lower for first-time donations online. So my advice to you here is that you don't wait to steward these online donors. The good news is that you can do that in an automated way. Your online giving provider, whether you're using, Network for Good or, QGive or Boomerang, or if it's through your donor database like a Donor Perfect or a Neon, whatever you're using, you should have the ability to go in and customize what the donor receives from you or sees right after they make a donation. So imagine that you're on your nonprofit's website, you click donate, you fill out the donation form, you put in your credit card number, you click donate. Well, right away, the donor is going to get two things from you. They're going to see your confirmation page, which is the page of the website that they are sent to after they click donate. And they're also probably going to receive an email from your online giving provider that is kind of like a receipt, saying, hey, we got your transaction, here's your transaction information, and thank you. Hopefully it says thank you. We'll talk about that. Now, these two things are totally automated, but what I see a lot of people do, or don't do rather, is go in and customize these things. Usually the software we have has like a default setting for these two things, and it requires you to go in and optimize them or personalize them in some way. But a lot of times that does not happen. Our confirmation pages are really boring, right? Someone clicks donate and they just get sent to this kind of blank, almost blank page. It says, hey, thanks for donating. Your transaction was processed, blah, 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 and that's basically it. But what I think is that this confirmation page is such an awesome, sneaky good place to start stewarding that donor, to say more than just thank you, to say maybe about how the impact of their gift is gonna happen. Give the donor something else to do, maybe watch a video, read a blog post, see a story about a service recipient. Give that donor something else to do on this page. Don't leave them hanging, because as you can see on this page, basically once I read thank you for your donation, I'm probably just going to close the browser window and go on with my day, right? But that's such a missed opportunity. We want to tell that donor or give that donor something to do. Like I said, check out a blog post, watch a video, volunteer opportunities, an event calendar, visit social media, read the previous newsletter, check out matching gift opportunities. There are dozens, maybe even hundreds of things you could do on this page, but usually these pages, all they do is say thank you and nothing else. This one is a little bit better. There's some nice, really donor-centric language in addition to a thank you. You've just changed lives. Your investment in the community is already being put to work. And there's a stock photo, but it's better than no photo at all. But I think, again, what this page kind of suffers from is, now what? Now what is the donor supposed to do? Pretty much the only thing that the donor can do after looking at this, brief paragraph and nice picture is close the website. But let's give that donor something else to do, because the more they do, the more likely it is that they're going to convert into some other action later on. So an event calendar, volunteer opportunities, even video. I'm starting to see video a lot more on these thank you pages or these confirmation pages. This is an organization in Indy where you click donate and it takes you to this page where there's a little cell phone video that kind of takes you on a tour of the facility of the nonprofit. And you see the service recipients hanging out with the volunteers, and everyone is saying, thank you into the camera and smiling. And you really do get a sense that this organization is doing good work, and you can make that donor feel good about that donation that they just made. So even if you keep that donor's attention for a couple more minutes, even one more minute, it's going to make them feel better about that gift that they just gave. And that's kind of what sets the foundation for a second gift or an additional gift sometime later. So when you go in to customize these pages, consider telling a story, maybe embedding a little bit of a little video. And it doesn't have to be a Hollywood production. This is a simple cell phone video. It's one shot, it's not edited, but it does more than any sort of generic statement or, no statement, certainly. So video, great thing to put on here. If it's just text and a couple paragraph story, that's okay too. But give that donor something to kind of sink their teeth into, rather than just kind of that, well, we got your donation, have a nice day, and then they close your website, basically, which is not what you want to do. If you do customize these pages, don't put too much on there. Don't give the donor too much to do. I really like all of the things that are on this page. You've got some nice storytelling, you've got a nice thank you, nice impact statement, certainly a lot for the donor to do. You can check out the recent annual report. You can explore previous commentary. I think those are blog posts, social media, there's a video, there's a couple sign-up forms. I would pick maybe one or two things, maybe three things tops, although that might be pushing it a little, that you really want the donor to do. If you're not active on social media, I wouldn't push people to those social media channels. If you don't have a robust kind of calendar of upcoming volunteer opportunities, I wouldn't link people to that. If you are an organization that really relies or has a kind of a robust matching giving program, put that there. A link to a survey, if you want to learn more about why the donor gave just now, which hopefully you do want to learn those things, a survey is a great thing to put on this page. But don't load it up with too many options, because what web design theory tells us is the more options you give someone, the less likely it is that they're going to do any of those things. So pick a couple things that are kind of meaningful to you, and don't be afraid to change it out. You can A/B test these pages. You can let something run for a few months and then change it out and then kind of compare your results. Or you can just kind of look at your live analytics data. If you have like Google Analytics installed on your website, you can see, hey, what are people clicking? And more importantly, what are people not clicking? So a couple of things there. So the confirmation page is one that I would definitely encourage you to go in and customize, optimize, give that donor something to do. Most importantly, say thank you, put a smile on that donor's face. It's your support that makes all these things possible because of people like you. Nice donor-centric language, I think, is appropriate for these pages. Then we have that automatic email confirmation, that automatic receipt. The one, it's the one that people get immediately after giving. It comes to their inbox within seconds. Usually, like the confirmation page, these things are very boring and robotic and transactional, I think is the most important thing. Now, most of you listening should be able to go in and customize these emails, but maybe you haven't thought about it. Maybe nobody's told you that, that's a good thing to do. I think sometimes the vendors let people down and don't encourage people to go in. There is no reason why these emails can't look like really nice gift acknowledgments, even though they go out to everybody. You can't customize them or personalize them too much, but they shouldn't look so scary. It shouldn't lead with receipt. It shouldn't lead with big red letters that say important. This one does not even say thank you. It literally only is a receipt with kind of a scary red paragraph there in the middle. And again, if this is the first gift that someone has ever made to your organization, this is the first thing they ever receive from you after becoming a donor. And I really think that's why we have lower retention rates on the online side versus the offline side, because offline donors typically get a nice letter in the mail, a nice phone call, perhaps a handwritten note, and online donors can get those things too. But online donors first get this automatic email receipt. So, another one, there's kind of an attachment there. They got, it's caught by my spam filter, looks kind of scary, don't really know what that one is. This one's a little bit better, at least it's sort of branded. But these things, it kind of looks like something you would get from a grocery store or from a gas station, right? And this is fundraising, right? This is nonprofits, this is philanthropy. These things should not feel super transactional. This is the other side of the coin. This is actually the email from that organization that had the video on their confirmation page I showed you. So imagine clicking donate, go into that nice page with the video, and then moving from that to the inbox where there's this nice email that you could probably print out and mail to them, maybe take the social media buttons out. But other than that, it's a pretty nice letter, right? You got a nice service recipient photo, nice branding, and the paragraph, I think, is just so well written. Your gift will help provide this, this, and this. You're helping kids unlock their future. And by the way, we're going to send you a letter in the mail. So telling the donor what it is that comes next in that communication sequence. But this is a nice automatic email that I know they went in, customized, and they made look really nice. So do that. And then I love at the bottom that they give the donor something to do. So just like the confirmation page should give the donor something to do, so should that email. To keep up with what's happening and see success stories you make possible, follow us on social media. So they give the donor something to do. So if you give the donor something to do in both places, make sure they're not the same. Maybe if the confirmation page talks about volunteer opportunities or matching gifts, then the email can talk about maybe social media or a link to a survey, right? So kind of mix and match there. Don't duplicate efforts. But you can see how this one worked nicely, I think, in tandem with the page with the video on it. Another example, dear Stephen, your contribution is going to be put to work. That future tense language, I think, is really useful here because you haven't spent their money yet, but you still want to talk about impact. So, hey, this is what you can expect, or we can't wait to show you all the great things your dollars are going to do over the next year or so. And this is an automatic email, but it looks personal. It really does come from the ED. And I would put this email up against any of those kind of receipt type emails I showed you before. Another example, I think you probably get the picture, but service recipient photos, nice donor-centered text, you're a hero, you're making a difference. And then give that donor an opportunity to interact with you. If you ever have any questions, just reach out to us anytime. Another example, we made a little thank you video for you that links back to the website, so you can watch a thank you video there. But all of these emails, totally automated. They were just customized one time and made to look nice, besides those little receipts. Charity Water, they're so good at all this stuff. They do the same thing. I like that they did a survey. We want to continue to improve your experience. So to help us do that, please tell us more about yourself in a quick survey. So social media, video, surveys, matching gifts, event calendars, there's lots of things you can put in these emails. They don't just have to be the end of the conversation. I think they should be the start of the conversation. So that's kind of my retention spiel for you. And now let's talk about how to reduce all of that friction so that you get more online gifts. We don't want people to come to your page and not fill out the form, or fill out half of the form and get stuck, or maybe get distracted. We're going to talk about distracting right there. But I think the first and best thing you should do is to make sure that you have a branded giving page. Okay, so what's a branded giving page? Well, there's basically three types of online donation pages. There's a payment processor page, which is something that is generated by a third-party online giving provider. So like a PayPal page, when they leave your website, they click donate and they go to a PayPal page. That's a payment processor page. That's bad. We'll talk about why that's bad in a minute. Next best thing is a branded donation page that is connected to your online giving provider. And I'll show you, it's kind of like an in-between, and I'll show you what that looks like. But the best thing you should do is to have your website. You go to yourwebsite.org/donate, and there is a form on that page to fill out. You don't want people to go from the donate page to another page that actually has the form. The more steps you have, the more likely it is that people are going to not complete that form. You don't want a ton of steps. You don't want a ton of clicks. You want someone to go to nonprofit.org/donate, and there's a form right there on that page. You shouldn't have any other steps besides that. We have data that shows that when you have a page like that, not only does it get more donations, but it gets a higher dollar amount within those donations. So let me show you an example of this. So here's a nonprofit's website. You click donate, you come to this page, it's /donate on the URL. But there's another button that they have to click to get to the actual donate page, right? They have to click donate again, only to be sent to a PayPal page or a page like this where you're gone from that nonprofit's website. Now you're on the payment processor's website, and somehow behind the scenes they know it's going to get to that nonprofit. This is bad. This is a absolute killer of conversion. It's sometimes alarming to the donor. They're like, whoa, where am I? I thought I was on this nonprofit's website. Now I'm on PayPal. Like, what's going on? Is this a real thing? WorldPay, this looks totally scary. This looks like they're like donating to a Bond villain or something like that. This is a killer. And this is, has been proven a billion times over by all kinds of conversion rate optimization tests and experiments and research. If you have something like this, you're going to get less donations than people who don't have something like this, who have a nice page on their website with a form that is on their website, and they can fill it out right then and there. So if you have an online giving provider that this is the only way to do it, honestly, I would recommend you change vendors. If you're only taking donations through PayPal, you should add in something that is more native to your website. And I'm not saying ditch PayPal. Some donors may actually want to give through PayPal, which should not be the only option by any means. So what another kind of in-between step that we see is, you click donate, and then you're taken to a page that is a little bit better than the PayPal page. You still have control over it. Maybe your online giving provider or your database lets you customize it. This is useful for people that maybe don't have a lot of technical skill. They don't have maybe control of their website and they can't embed a form. This is for sure better, especially if you can bring that branding over from your website or from your domain. But again, the best thing to do is to have a form right on your donate page. So you can see the URL here is, partnershipfca.com/donate. And when you're on that /donate page, the form is right there and it can be filled out and there's no more steps. This is by far the best thing you can do for conversions, is just have that form right then and there. So if you're using like a Boomerang or a Network for Good and they let you embed that form on any page of your website, this is the page to do it on. Not only does it increase conversions, but it also allows you to do other things like promote the page. So let's pretend that you have, let's look at two options here. So a nice URL, coburnplace.org/donate versus one of those weird payment processor pages that is a long gobbledygook. It doesn't look like a real website. You can't put that on a print piece. You can't be talking to someone in person or on the phone. You could say, hey, just go to coburnplace.org/donate and donate. Well, you don't want to be able to, you don't have to say, go to Conterra.org/site/C70JIL. You can't say that to someone. So it just allows you to also distribute that page in a much more organic way. Not to mention, it looks more authoritative. There's less clicks for the donor. There's less steps for the donor. This, honestly, I could end the presentation here, because if you make this one change, your conversion rates are going to go up, and probably go up pretty substantially, honestly. But luckily for you, I got 8 more tips, and we're going to roll through them because they're pretty useful. Third thing is, these pages on your website should look good on any device, especially mobile devices. I don't think I need to spend a lot of time, convincing you that we live in a mobile world. Some of you are probably even listening to this webinar on a mobile device. Maybe you're watching the recording on an iPad or something like that. The better your website performs on mobile devices, even laptops. Laptops nowadays can be small, and that screen gets crunched in there. The more conversions, the more donations you're going to get. You've probably had an experience of maybe going to a website on your phone and struggling to maybe fill out a form. Maybe you were kind of pinching and swiping and trying to get everything typed in there. That can be a killer for online donations. It's got to be really easy for that donor to fill out that form, no matter what device they're using. And if you need some ammo to maybe convince your boss or your board members that this is an investment that we want to make, here's some case studies for you where basically donations doubled, more than doubled, after a responsive website redesign. So the key word here is responsive. That is kind of mobile friendly on steroids. If you are in the midst of a website redesign or maybe considering a website redesign, make sure you ask that person or that agency, hey, is our website going to be responsive? Question. And then be quiet and let them answer. If they don't immediately say, yes, it will be responsive, period, you've got a problem. If they hesitate, or if they maybe look kind of deer in the headlights, or if they say, well, it's going to be mobile friendly, that's bad. Responsive means something. It is either responsive or not. A web designer with their salt should be able to say, yes, it will be responsive, and I'll be able to show that to you. So be really careful. Be very wary of things like, mobile friendly or mobile optimized. Best word is responsive. So what responsive means is that it literally responds to whatever screen size or resolution that device is looking at. So you can see here's the same donation page on a desktop computer versus on a phone, or maybe a larger tablet. I'm not really sure, probably a phone. But you can see big blue buttons. It has the same branding as the desktop version, and it's easy to click those things. So make sure not only that your website is responsive, but that the technology that creates the form itself, because usually those are two different things. You have your page and you have your form. Both of those things you want to be responsive. So ask your web designer and ask your online giving provider. Responsive, that's the word. Okay, my favorite, number 4, no escape. So no escape means that we don't want to distract the donor from making that donation. Sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot a little bit where they're on this nice page and there's a lot of things that they can do on that page besides donate. In the web design world, this is typically referred to as the Toothpaste Trance. So Toothpaste Trance means that there's too much on the screen and it paralyzes the website visitor into doing nothing. And where that comes from is like the toothpaste aisle at the grocery store. There's so many different toothpaste and it can be hard to actually shop for them. Well, the same thing happens on a website if we give the donor too many things to do. So I like this page and it's really nice looking and the form is awesome. But above that form is kind of a lot of stuff that I think might actually distract that donor. So you've got the navigation bar. You've got this nice kind of slider image thing with the arrows. So that just kind of is like begging to be clicked, right? And then you've got that form below the bottom half of the page. So what I recommend is that you get rid of all of that stuff, basically. And it's okay to have some supporting content. In fact, you want supporting content besides the form. But you don't want that to really pull a ton of attention away from the donor. You don't want things that can be clicked or scrolled through. You don't want the donor to have to scroll for your website form. And you certainly don't want that navigation kind of getting in the way, because there's like a dozen things right there that they can do. And donors kind of finicky, and you see this, maybe when you're on a website when you're going shopping or like being on Amazon, there's a lot of stuff that can pull you away from actually completing that transaction. So what I like about this next website is here's their homepage. You click donate, and then you're taken to the donation page where all of that other stuff is stripped out. Like it still maintains the branding, but notice on this donation page is that there's none of that navigation. Like there's no navigation bar, there's no sidebar, there's no scrolling required. Everything is right there at the top of the page. But you still have that nice supporting content. You've got that text on the left, support the American prospect, and then most importantly, you've got that nice form. So in terms of web design, your donation page should look different than the rest of the site that maybe maintains that navigation or sidebars or things like that. On these pages, all you want the donor to do is donate. Versus a homepage, you want to give the donor lots of things to do because you're not really sure what they're interested in yet. But if you get someone to the donation page, they're interested in donating. All you need to do is get out of their way, basically. So ideally, that's all there is on this page is, branding, supporting content. But the only thing that's really clickable is the actual donation form. So get rid of those distractions, get rid of the navigation, and then make sure the form appears on that top half of the page. You don't want anyone to have to scroll to get to the form. Okay, so let's talk about the form. We've spent a lot of time on the page, but let's get into the details of the form. So you probably have to decide, you definitely have to decide what it is that you're going to ask for on that form. And depending on what online giving provider you're using, you can probably ask for really as much as you want. You have to ask for name and an address because it's got to verify the credit card number. You got to ask for the credit card number, obviously. Beyond that, contact information, an email address is nice because you want to be able to send that receipt, certainly. A phone number may be an interesting thing that you want to ask for there. You might also want to ask, is this gift in memory or in honor of someone? You may want to ask a question like, hey, why are you giving today? What prompted this gift today? That donation form can be pretty long. And there's a lot of debate about the length of the form. Some people say, the shorter the form, the better. Other people kind of say, well, that's not necessarily true. If you ask questions in certain ways that are relevant, you can get away with asking more questions. And certainly if the page is nice, you can get away with asking for more questions. So my advice to you would be this, basically. Whatever you ask for, make sure that's what you're going to use immediately. If you are asking for a phone number but have absolutely no plans to call that donor and say thank you, then don't ask for a phone number. If you're not going to do something with the information you're asking for on that form, don't ask for it. That's basically my advice to you. Now, if you are gung-ho about calling donors to say thank you, which I really like, I think you should do that, then you should ask for the phone number. I wouldn't require the phone number if it is a donor who does not want to give you their phone number and you require it. Guess what? They're not going to donate because they can't fill out that form without giving that phone number. If you're not going to do anything with the information that you're asking for, don't ask for it, okay? And you can always go back later on and ask more questions. You can ask questions on that confirmation page, right? You can link to a survey. You can have a form to fill out on the confirmation page. You can ask more questions there, have more fields to fill out. This isn't your only opportunity to find out as much as you can about the donor. So don't load it up just because you think this is the only time we can get this information. So be judicious, have an honest conversation with yourself and say, okay, what are we going to do? Because if you load up the form and you don't do anything with that information, I think your conversions are definitely going to suffer. And if you ask a bunch of questions, you're kind of setting an expectation in that donor's mind, right? And if you don't follow through, they may wonder, gee, why did they ask all that information about me? Like, what are they doing with that stuff? So lots of different interesting intricacies there. But my advice is just, ask for what you're going to use right away and what you really need to initially steward that donor, because you can always go back and get more information, like I said. Okay, so giving ladders. So on your donation form, you're probably going to suggest donation amounts. You're going to say, you're going to have a write-in amount where the donor can write in whatever they want to give, but you might also have, $10, $20, $50, $100. That's typical. That's good. If you do that, my recommendation is that you justify the reasons why you're asking for those dollar amounts. The reason for that is that we have a ton of research that shows that donors like to know what their dollars, what their donations are being spent on. This is research from the Donor Voice, but we have research from Penelope Burke, from Adrian Sargent. I mean, it's all over the place. Donor Voice puts it in their top 7, is that the donor wants to know how that money is being spent, because it makes the donor feel like they're actually making a real impact out in the world. So that's why I love this giving ladder from Coburn Place, where, yeah, they're asking for $15 and $50 and $100, but they are tying it to actual uses that the nonprofit may spend that money on. Now, you're not necessarily locking someone into like a fund designation or anything like that. You're just kind of giving them a broad feeling of how it is that that money is going to be spent and what difference it's going to make. So, $15 provide one night for a family who's suffering abuse. $150 provides a specialist to help someone find permanent housing. So not only does it kind of get the donor's wheels turning, but it also kind of shows that, hey, this organization is actually doing some really awesome things. And it may even increase the amount of money that the donor gives, because they may come into this site saying, you know what, I'll give $10. But if it starts with $15 and, oh, gee, that provides one whole night stay for a family, yeah, why don't I go ahead and do 15? Or, if they come in thinking that they can do $100, they say 150 and 240 and how that money can make a difference, that should promote upgrades as well. You can tie it to maybe fun periodic things. So this was a peer-to-peer campaign for the American Diabetes Association. And you can see they kind of had fun with the suggested gift amounts. They kind of tied it to the history of the organization, because this campaign occurred on some sort of significant date in the organization's history. So if you do this, if you choose not to be program-centric and instead be org-centric, make sure you have kind of a reason to be org-centric. But the other reason I like this giving ladder is the numbers are kind of weird, right? $29, $52, $110. Even the Coburn Place ones are sort of weird. $15, $60, $240. I'm not a huge fan of 10, 25, 50, 100, 1,000, because it's kind of arbitrary, right? It's boring. It might be harder to tie those dollar amounts to a specific purpose, right? You kind of have to go, okay, what do we spend $1,000 on? Well, we know that this specific thing we need costs $139 or $294. That, I think, will tell the donor that what you're asking for was maybe thought through a little bit more, and it's more of a real thing versus kind of like an arbitrary round number that was just kind of pulled out of the sky. So I would encourage you to maybe experiment with those things, maybe get with your programming people and say, hey, what are some, typical services we provide, and, what's the dollar amount actually tied to those things? How much does it cost to vaccinate a kitten? How much does it cost to keep a dolphin fed for a day? Find out kind of those fun, impacty things, and then I think you can tie your giving ladder online. And then tell the donor, that's what the money can go towards. That's the impact it can make. Okay, number 7. This is a simple one. Make sure you have a monthly giving option. Monthly giving retention rate, super high. If you get a monthly donor, it's really hard to lose that donor. You really have to kind of screw up for that to happen. Above 90% retention rates there. So a checkbox, hey, make this monthly gift. And I think all of you can probably do that. I haven't really seen any software that doesn't allow that. And maybe PayPal can be a little harder, I think. Another thing, and you'll see this later on, an example is, maybe that page should start monthly and they have to opt into an annual gift. That could be something interesting to try. You got to be careful there, because if the donor thinks they're making a one-time gift and then they get charged in that second month, they might be mad. So be very careful about deciding to do that. That's not a universal recommendation by me by any means, but I have seen that where you go to a donation page and it starts monthly and you have to turn it into an annual gift versus what we usually see, which is here, where they have to opt into the monthly gift. Monthly donors are great. High retention rate, also much more likely to leave a bequest. Richard Radcliffe found that monthly donors are 7 times more likely to leave a gift in their will than annual donors. So monthly donors, they're great. Hopefully you get a lot of monthly donors through your website. It's really good. Okay, winding down. Number 8, social proof. So anything that you can put on that page just to give that donor some trust. Hey, this is a secure donation. You know, if you care about your watchdog rating, I know that's a mixed bag. I'm not saying that's always a good thing, but if you care about that, if you have a 4-star rating through Charity Navigator or something like that, you know, that may be something you want to put on there. Any kind of little graphic design asset or element that just kind of shows that this is a secure donation. You know, the Visa logo, I think, has been shown to increase trust in a page. So you might want to include those things, you know, manually if they aren't already included on your form. And then number 9, kind of touched on this a little bit, but I want to hammer the idea home. I think that the donors should feel good as they are donating on your website. Like I said, anything you can make it to feel less transactional, the better, in my mind. I love this page from Sightsavers. It's like my favorite online donation page ever. It has like everything I've talked about. It does everything. So first of all, there's nothing else that they can do on this page besides donate, right? Because the navigation is gone. There's no like scrolly picture things. There's no sidebars. There's just the form with some really, really nice supporting content. I mean, this page almost is like cheering you on as you're donating to Sightsavers. You know, you're doing something amazing. No one should go blind from avoidable causes. How many people's sight will you help us save today? You got a kid who's smiling. The mom is smiling. Oh my gosh, that top banner I just love. It's beautiful. And then you've got this nice form. This is what I was thinking of. You can see that it starts monthly and you have to click give once to go into an annual gift. But in both cases, there's suggested gift amounts with justification, and they're weird gift amounts. You know, $7, $14, $21. And that's on the monthly side. That's why they're lower. But if you were to click give once, they're higher. I think it's like, you know, $52 and $112, like that. Where your money goes. And I know I'm not a huge fan of like, you know, overhead spending and things like that. But I think they do a really good job of showing, hey, this is kind of where the money goes towards in terms of different things. And then you've got the social proof at the bottom. You've got the payment method logos. You got those security check marks. This is it, guys. I mean, this is a really nice page. I think this could be a model for you, honestly. You click donate by card, you fill out the form. It's great. But I think the main reason I want to show this to you is it really kind of makes the donor feel good about what they're doing. You probably already convinced them if they're on this page. Now, in addition to actually getting the donation, make them feel good about it, right? You know, if you can change the wording on the donate button, you know, change a life, you know, save the wetlands, you know, feed a kitten, whatever it is, like that kind of language, I think can really make the donor feel good about what they're doing. And then last thing, and this applies to all 9 other things I've talked about, is, you know, measure and be keeping an eye on how we're doing. You know, how is that giving ladder performing? You know, do we need to change it up? Should we go from $52 to $47? You know, did that make a difference? Is the photo we're using the best photo? Well, let's A/B test it. Let's have one page that has one photo and another page that has another photo. Let's see which one does better. So all those things you can be continuously testing. A/B testing, you may have that in your provider. You actually don't need your provider to do A/B testing. To actually do that, you can use a tool called Google Optimize. It's free. We use it at Bloomerang. You know, we have a vendor and we don't really care that they have A/B testing. We just use Google Optimize. You can go in and you can say, hey, I want to test something on this page of the website, and you can make the changes within Google Optimize, and it'll send half of the visitors to one page and another half to the other page. It's this awesome dashboard, and you can see which page is winning, and it's great. So Google Optimize, I would definitely use to do all this testing. It's awesome. It's free, and it's Google, so they're going to serve up the right pages at the right time. So check that out. So wrapping up, retention, go in, and customize your confirmation page and that automatic email receipt. Make those things nice gift acknowledgments. They don't have to just be boring, transactional, rote things that they're just going to get closed or deleted right when they appear. You want that branded giving page with an embedded form. So nonprofit.org/donate. Should be a form on that page. That's it. That's the only advice there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You don't want an extra step. You don't want the donor to have to go to another web page or another site. PayPal is your only option. You got to ditch that. There's a billion online giving providers. Most of them are all great. Invest the money. I think it'll be worth it. Responsive. That's the word. Say that to your web designer, especially if you're in the midst of a new website. Use that word responsive and test the reaction there. On the page, don't want a ton of distractions. Just that form and just that supporting content, photos and texts. Even videos, I think, can be a little too distracting. I like photos and texting, but I like a video on the confirmation page for sure. And then make the donor feel good, right? You should be clapping them along, cheering for them as they're there on that page. So you've got some homework. I would donate to yourself tonight, honestly, and kind of go through the process yourself and see what it's like. And definitely test it on an iPhone or your Samsung phone, your iPad, your laptop. Test it. And you can't get it for every single device. I know it's not going to look 100% awesome on every single device out there on the market. But if your website is responsive and if your forms are responsive, you should be in pretty good shape there. So if you liked this presentation, I would invite you to check out the Boomerang website. We've got an awesome resource library. Pretty proud of it. We've got templates. We've got downloadables. Like Jay said, I've got my own webinar series. It's every Thursday. It's free. Almost as good as the DonorSearch series. I think you'll enjoy it. I'd like to see your name in there if you go from this one to that one. I really only scratched the surface here. There's a couple of people that I really kind of bow my hands down to as the experts in this field. I would follow these two people on Twitter, BD and Brady. They're awesome. They're doing like really, really in-depth, awesome, nerdy, really cool stuff, really experiments, A/B testing. They're, I think, the two foremost experts in this topic. This is really just an appetizer to the kinds of things they're recommending. So I would follow those two on Twitter if you care about this topic specifically. And even digital, they've got a lot of good advice on email and other digital things as well. If you want to optimize that automatic email, here's a template for you. This kind of has all the bits and pieces. So if you want to go in and customize that thing, here's a little template for you that you can use. Also got one for snail mail letters if you want to maybe look at your thank you letter in the mail as well. So a couple templates for you. We'll get you all that good stuff. But Jay, we got time for questions, maybe 5 or 6 minutes for questions. I think we said 4 o'clock. So I am happy to hang out for a few more minutes if there are any questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stephen. Yeah, really great content. This was not just an appetizer for many of us, but it was really great stuff. You have a number of questions, and before we begin with those, I just want to give this a reminder that you'll be receiving a copy of this slide deck in your email. So be on the lookout for that. But as you can see right here on the screen, there is Stephen's contact information. So please take it down, including his Twitter handle. So you want to be on the lookout for his content, what he's sharing both through the website and through his social channels. I'm going to jump in here and start with a question that came in early from Thomas, who said, Stephen, would you suggest using the confirmation page email receipt to convert folks into monthly givers? I know you talked about this a bit, but he's that, would that be too much of an ask up front? And I think you did talk about this, but I thought I'd give you another chance to address it.
That's a good question. I think that confirmation page and that email, the primary purpose should be to make that donor feel really good about what they just did. My gut says, and I've only been thinking about this for the 5 seconds since you asked it, Jay, but my gut says is that's probably too soon, because you did just ask that, right? Hopefully you had that monthly giving option. So to maybe swoop in and do that so soon, I think might be a mistake, although everyone's different, and that might be something interesting that you want to try, right? You could maybe have 2 confirmation pages A/B testing at the same time and see if it actually does generate some new monthly donations. But what I would recommend kind of more broadly is get the donation, do a really good job thanking them, and then I would maybe segment your list afterwards, maybe a month or 2 afterwards, and say, okay, we got some online donations. Did we get any online donations that were maybe $20 or less, or maybe even $50 or less? Let's segment those people into a group, and let's do a campaign to them that talks about monthly giving. So you can imagine getting an email like, hey, Stephen, thanks so much for donating, last month. You're making a huge impact already, but, we have this monthly giving program. It just so happens to start at the monthly at the gift amount you made. You gave us $5. Hey, we got a monthly giving program that starts at $5. You can increase your impact for the whole rest of the year and longer. Would you be interested in maybe learning more about that? That's kind of what I would do, is maybe just segment those online donors and get smaller donors and push monthly giving on those folks. But I would honestly save that confirmation page and the email thank you for thanking, stewarding, and learning more about the donor. So a survey or a tour invitation, something like that, then maybe another appeal so soon after.
And in fact, I think because the way you answered it, you answered another question, at least in part from Sophie, who had said that liked the idea of testing pages, but it seemed that you can't have 2 at once, and do you test one for a while and then switch to another? You were talking about it in the context of testing this with a subsequent appeal, segmenting, and then doing a kind of A/B approach. But do you have thoughts in general about A/B testing with elements of the site for different audiences, things of that nature?
Yeah, I think that you should, you probably only have one donate page. I think that at any given time, you should be running a test on that, honestly. One element, don't test a bunch of things all at once. It's one element. It's like one photo or one giving ladder versus another giving ladder. So, at Bloomerang, we're a for-profit, but we're testing pages on an ongoing basis all the time. And I think that nonprofits can and should do the same thing. But I think the key there is, and this is a whole other, A/B testing is a whole other presentation, but one element, because if you test multiple elements, you don't really know what it is that's moving the needle. So change the suggested gift amount is a great test. If there's a photo on the page, maybe a photo versus not a photo, the text versus not text, or different types of paragraphs, but do one test at a time, and then choose that clear winner. I think that'd be my advice for you, Sophie.
Right, one variable. We had a question from Alora who said, "Are there any suggestions for good questions or things to say during thank you calls?" And I remember you're going through all that, and you said maybe ask the phone number, maybe not, but I know the thank you calls would be a reason for that. What kind of questions would you suggest for those?
I think if it's a first-time donor, if you know it's their first gift, you call them and they pick up the phone, which is great, by the way. There's a ton of data that shows that's awesome for first-time donors. I would ask them what prompted your gift today. What's your connection to our cause? Why do you care about clean water? Why do you care about the Chesapeake Bay? Why do you care about the stray pet population in St. Louis? I think just that simple, hey, why did you give? What's your connection? And that will allow you to communicate to that donor things that make sense to them, right? If you are a nonprofit that has a wide service offering and you are sending lots of different types of stories, well, if you get that reason for donating, then you can send them really specific things in your newsletter or stewardship pieces, tell certain stories in the thank you letter. That's the number one question I would ask a new donor. An existing donor, if you're making a thank you call to someone that's been giving to you for 5 years, 10 years, I don't think the question is as big of a deal as just making sure that you are recognizing that length of giving. Hey Jay, I noticed you donated the other day. Just want to call and say thanks for the many years of support that you've been giving to me, to the organization. You could maybe ask that repeat donor, if you ever have any questions or concerns, please call me day or night. Here's my contact information. I think just extending that invitation for feedback would be good on the repeat donor side. But new donor, I would ask them why. Who they, you got to be curious about these people. I think we're not very curious about our donors, especially first-time donors. Imagine if you got a birthday present in the mail from a total stranger, you would probably want to know, why that person is giving you a gift. And I think it's the same for nonprofits. Ask them what's up.
You said something at the end, Stephen, about donating to yourself, which I know some people do to just test their system, see how it works, see what you get. But it's true end to end, isn't it? I mean, because if you're making a donation, or let's say if you want to be really mysterious about it, if it comes from a member of your family, but you're right there in the house, so you know what happened, you know how it felt going through the process, whether or not it worked for you, if there was anything that stuck out, and then all the way through to, did you get a nice note that's actually personalized? Was it addressed to you? Was it hand signed? Did you get a phone call? So I don't know how you'd know all really for real until you try.
Yeah, I mean, ask a neighbor, ask a friend. If you're an ED, or maybe even a board member, or even a development director that has a fundraising staff, ask a friend and say, hey, I want to know, what did you get? What did you get in the mail? I want to see the emails. I want to see the letter. That could be a really good way, because if you donate yourself,
right,
like you said, Jay, you're not going to get those, because you're going to see and say, oh, we don't need to send a letter to this person. But yeah, that could be very interesting. And I wouldn't throw that in someone's face necessarily, but I think you could have a productive meeting or a conversation about that if you were to do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Stephen. I know we went a little over the hour, but I really appreciate this. I know everybody here did too. And once again, everybody, take down Stephen's information. You can see it right down the screen. And do be on the lookout for this slide deck coming to you. But there's lots more resources right there through that link. So do go in there and check that out. Check out his webinars coming up every Thursday. Terrific content with wonderful presenters. And I also want to encourage everybody to take a look under the resources tab, where you'll find at DonorSearch.net, you'll find recordings of this session and all the other sessions in this series posted right there, so you can share it with colleagues. So again, our thanks to Stephen. And I also want to let you all know that if you want to put this on your calendar, we have 2 sessions coming up next week. On Wednesday, The Heart of the Matter, How Simple Data Analytics Can Boost Your Planned Giving Program, and that's with Linda Garrison. And then on Thursday, the next day, Members Gone Wild, Reigning in the Rogues with Scott Koskowski coming back to the Flashcast stage. And during the presentation at the end here, Stephen mentioned a couple names, including Brady Josephson. Brady is going to return in one of our 6 sessions in August. We have people like John Hayden. If you don't, you want to see that. John Hayden, Brady Josephson, Tim Burcham, Scott Lang, Sophie Penny, Claire Axelrad. Lots of great stuff coming up ahead. So do be on the lookout for that. I want to also give our thanks once again to DonorSearch for providing this platform where we can bring in people like Stephen Shattuck to talk with us and teach us. Very grateful to them. Obviously, to Terrence Stiggs in the background here, making sure that that everything is available to you. So our thanks to Terrence. And this is Jay Frost, and it's been a pleasure having you. We'll look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.